disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. So this is an interesting compilation that someone put together of all the little Freudian slips, and sometimes Freudian slips tell a lot. Sometimes they really tell a lot of what's really happening, what people are really saying, and what isn't being addressed, especially when it comes to certain war crimes or certain agitations or supporting certain countries over another, and how we're not really ending this war or have any initiative to end and have peace and civility because we profiteer from war. We profiteer from the war machine. Of course, we have to find any means necessary to keep this war going. And of course, I mean about Israel, Palestine, but that could be applied to any factor. Hook up in, dark corners, because really all these wars are pre-planned. We're basically pawns in order to slaughter and kill each other for profit, for profiteering. And the more they continue to divide us, the more they get us anger and enraged at each other instead of actually uniting against the forces of evil. The more they can escalate these tensions to manufacture more wars. And then we start slaughtering each other. And the next thing you know, we'll be, brutally beating each other while the, elite class are cashing in on their war bonds as they're sailing around their yachts. Just kind of paint the picture there. But here's what I mean by this. So this is a little compilation that someone put together of a bunch of this is a bunch of news clips, and they're about to mention about being asked about ceasefire. And of course, about Justin Trudeau, but they're asked about ceasefire. They're asking about, Israel, Palestine. Do you see the correlation? Do you see how this is basically a genocide and not an actual war? Because war usually involves two partners. It usually involves a country fighting another country, and there has to be some duality between the two. But what we're seeing here is the bombardment of a $1 trillion Iron Dome force that's continuing to obliterate an already occupied territory that has seen devastation beyond means. And in that case, that kind of resembles a genocide. But here's what the political main sphere are trying to avoid, and this is where the Freudian slips come out.
We need to see a cease. We need to see a humanitarian pause so we can flow. We need to see ceasing of the levels of violence that we're seeing.
Sverige och EU står enat i att Israel har rätt till folk till försvar inom
I'm also upset that since October the 7th, the focus at the moment is on the other side. People are trying to suggest that there is some sort of moral equivalence. There is no moral equivalence. We are not the victims. Sorry, we are the victims. We are not the aggressors. Sorry.
But I can tell you that we are not targeting anyone else in Gaza but civilians. Hamas is cynically, but rather terrorists, of course.
And I would like to use the rest of my time to say how appalled I am that people are bringing up the Holocaust. Do not use other genocides to describe this one. I have been...
That last one was intriguing. That last one was intriguing. Hey, I don't want you bringing up other genocides to validate the point that this is a genocide. Oh, what did I say? Oh, help me, friends. Oh, God. I said something that was kind of correct. That amazes me. That amazes me. And people still, even after these little slips on the news here, and they were broadcast live, and they're on social media, so they're accessible to anybody to witness, and people still are falling into the trap. People are still diluted into the war propaganda. They still think this is all about self-defense. They still think that this is just one country trying to self-defend from another country. They don't see the bigger picture. They don't see, after how many years of lies that has brought us into the brinks of war, even after just recently and still continuing on, the unbelievable lies that were told to get us involved in the Ukrainian manufactured war against Russia. Even after that, people are still not woken to the fact of how the military-industrial complex manufactured these aggressions, manufactured these wars purposely to play us like suckers. They want us to slaughter each other. They want us to believe that this is self-defense, when really we're all just being manipulated by a higher force to tell us to kill one another so they can cash in on it. And I know how manufactured this is. We all know how manufactured this is because we've been following along and paying attention. But here's just some examples to this of publications straight out of Israel, not American press, because American press, we already know, has been taken over by the military-industrial complex and the Israeli lobbies. But look at this. From the Jerusalem Post. Again, Netanyahu, money to Hamas, part of strategy to keep Palestine divided. Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, is funding the terrorist group that they're supposedly fighting against. Doesn't that seem oddly familiar? Does that not seem like something almost like the same strategy the United States has pulled every time? Does it almost seem, it seems like we share some commodities between that. We share some similarities. I wonder if that's why we're such good allies. Maybe we got the idea from Israel. Maybe we gave them the idea. I don't know. What came first? Now that we are supervising, we know it's going to humanitarian causes, the source said, paraphrasing Netanyahu. So Netanyahu lied to the nation of Israel and saying their tax dollars are going to a terrorist group. Again, much like North America, our tax dollars are going to all these different international lobby groups to fund and manufacture these terrorist organizations to, again, ignite war on terror. Because in order to have a business on war on terror, we have to ignite the terror. We have to fearmonger. We have to keep people scared and afraid and paranoid and angered and to the point that we start slaughtering each other. And then once we start slaughtering each other, then we say it's a crisis. Then we'll come in and allow more people to slaughter each other while the criminal elite force that all manufactured this from the start capitalize and find some business perspective of each of these wars. Like how they're not telling you that Palestine has a huge oil reserve and natural gas. That's something that they failed to mention, but apparently RT was the one that pointed it out directly. That, oh, there's some actual natural resources. Like, we wouldn't go to war for that, right? How about this? From Times of Israel. 42 survivors of the Nova Rave massacre sued the defense establishment for negligence. 42 of the members at the music festival themselves are suing Israel. They're suing Israel for the lack of security, for the lack of for the negligence that allowed this to happen. Because also, what's been pointed out in Times of Israel was they were notified about this. They were notified that October 7th was going to happen. They knew that this terrorist stunt was going to happen. So, forgive us when we say that this is all a complete setup, just like other manufactured wars. This is the exact same playbook we've seen 20 plus years now. And maybe we should actually do something to stop these manufactured wars, stop the war machine, and maybe put some money back into the pockets of our nations and actually make our nations good. God forbid we help our homeless people. God forbid we help the veterans. God forbid we create roads and buildings and give people good jobs. God forbid we make our economies get better by not wasting our money in wasting each other. That's why I'm for a ceasefire. Aside from the fact that, we're slaughtering children and innocent lives in Palestine. But, the big picture is we spent billions upon trillions of dollars killing each other. And literally we could take not even a quarter of it. Not even a quarter of it. A tiny fraction of it. And invest it here. Invest it in our territory. Invest into our people to make our country actually sustainable. Instead of the atrocity that's coming right now. The fact that we are at the suffering point of the cost of living and the inflation and everything in between. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing that after all this, plus what you just saw there on mainstream media and all the Freudian slips that were broadcasted live, and you can see hours and hours on feedback, on loop, on social media, and there's still people that will suck into the propaganda. Most likely because either they're A, parts of the Israel regime and getting money or some sort of lucrative deal by them, or two, they just don't care and completely clueless. One of the two. But at least for us regular people, for us people that want just peace and prosperity so we can actually live and not be in constant warmongering, propagandized, paranoid fear 24/7 like we've done for the last 20 plus years, maybe we can actually take the time to be civil to one another and get shit done. Is that too hard to ask? Is that too much to ask these days? Apparently so, but at least for me, I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to say that this has gone too far. The war machine has terrorized, has victimized, has put us all with a target on our back, and we just need to stop this. Because it's way bigger than just Israel and Palestine. It's way bigger than Hamas. It's way bigger than Iraq and Afghanistan, Iran and Syria and all. Like, it is a giant global scam that we need to acknowledge, and we need to stop. And we need to defund it immediately as much as possible. And put that money, put your tax dollars, your hard-earned money, to actually making your neighbors, your friends, your family, and yourself better in your country than trying to send it to another country so they can kill each other. Again, is that too much to ask?